What if I told you that before America learned how to see us, we learned how to see ourselves? From the classrooms of Fisk to the dark rooms of Harlem, Black folks weren't just surviving in the 20th century, Black people were defining it. What if I told you that the selfies, the TikTok dances, the graduation photos we celebrate today, all of them sit on the shoulders of a century of Black photographers, scholars, singers, and students who created a brand new aesthetic, a new way of saying, we are here and we are beautiful. Welcome to Units 3.10 to 3.12, where we explore how HBCUs, Black Greek life, the New Negro Movement, the Harlem Renaissance, and Black photography reshaped modern Black identity. This episode brings together three major forces. HBCUs were institutions that expanded access to higher education after Reconstruction. The New Negro Movement was a push for self-definition, political voice, and cultural innovation. And Black photography was a tool to counter racist imagery and create a new aesthetic rooted in dignity in everyday life. Our essential knowledge statements for this that we need to watch out for are centered in African Americans using photography as activism and to develop counter narratives. The New Negro Movement emphasized pride, racial pride, cultural autonomy, and political advocacy. And HBCUs and Black Greek life built new professional, artistic, and intellectual pathways. And by the end, you'll be able to explain how these developments connect to identity, power, and cultural freedom. First, let's talk about the foundations. HBCUs after the Civil War, segregation and discrimination made college nearly impossible for African Americans. So Black communities and philanthropists built their own institutions. Wilberforce University, the first college owned and operated by African Americans, was a representative case. Fisk University was a champion of liberal arts. Tuskegee Institute in Alabama emphasized the leadership of industrial training. And after the Second Morrill Act of 1890, states had to create separate land-grant colleges for Black students, giving rise to more HBCUs across the South because PWI's, predominantly white institutions, would not accept them. These colleges weren't just classrooms. They were engines for Black scholarship, for cultural pride, and professional advancement. Take 10 seconds and jot down one reason HBCUs matter for understanding Black autonomy. Second, let's move from the classroom to the community. Black Greek letter organizations, whether at HBCUs or PWIs, offered support, leadership spaces, self-improvement, and service. That's why you'll see Omega Psi Phi members holding baskets of canned food in 1964, a reminder of lifelong community service. At the same time, African Americans were fleeing the racial violence of the South and moving into northern cities. In this context emerged the New Negro, a call for self-definition, political courage, and cultural innovation. Alain Locke described this in The New Negro in 1925, and Langston Hughes pushed against assimilation in his essay, The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain. What is the takeaway? The New Negro Movement wasn't just art. It was a political and cultural revolution with a social impact. Third, photography became the new battleground. African Americans used the camera to fight back against racist and stereotypical imagery. Artists like James Van Der Zee created a new Black aesthetic: beauty, dignity, leisure, pride and heritage, the liberated spirit of everyday life. And during the New Negro and Harlem Renaissance eras, photographers weren't just documenting life. They were shaping global perceptions of Black identity. So remember this for your exam. Black photography was activism, a visual argument against the color line. Let's ground this in the evidence, the work itself. Our required sources, the artifacts of Jubilee Singers and of Fisk University in 1875, demonstrates early HBCU impact and the global prominence of the Negro spirituals. George Washington Carver in his Tuskegee Library in 1902 shows scientific innovation and vocational training at HBCUs. Omega Psi Phi members with canned goods in 1964 was evidence of Black Greek letter organization service and tradition. Professor Gail Hansberry with students at North Carolina Central in 1965 highlights the continued role of HBCUs in producing Black scholars. Alain Locke, the New Negro in 1925, was an intellectual founder of the New Negro Movement and a stalwart at Howard University. Langston Hughes, the Negro artist in the Racial Mountain in 1926, was a critical argument for a distinctly Black aesthetic, and James Van Der Zee's portraits displayed counter-narratives showing the beauty, dignity, and modernity of Black life. Let's take a look at one of Van Der Zee's portraits. This portrait shows comparison between Black self-representation and white mainstream stereotypes. In this source, Carver's lab photo demonstrates continuity in the vocational model of Tuskegee University. And Alain Locke's writing shows change over time in how African Americans conceptualize racial pride and cultural prominence. Now let's have our Black popular culture moment. Beyonce's Homecoming is a repeated source to help analyze the prominence of Black culture on a global stage. She turned the stage into an HBCU yard. Or Missy Elliott's visuals blending Afrofuturism, Black creativity, and cultural pride. Or those viral graduation photos that are prominent on social media, where Black students pose like royalty under perfect lighting. That is the new Negro movement in the 21st century form. Art as identity, creativity as resistance, images as power. The tension between the then and the now. Not a coincidence, rather it's legacy. So what do we take away? First, HBCUs created new pathways to educational leadership, cultural pride, and social mobility. Second, the new Negro movement redefined Black identity through political voice, artistic innovation, and cultural power. And third, Black photography and visual art challenged stereotypical images, crafted a new aesthetic centered in Black power, Black dignity, Black beauty in everyday life. From the Jubilee Singers to Harlem Studios, from Tuskegee Labs to today's graduation portraits, the pursuit of freedom has always been an act of creativity, because history isn't just what happened, it's what we choose to remember. I'm Dr. Kamasi Hill, and this has been a Griot's History. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep the story alive.